All right, so we all have those people that we meet in the world, right? The people that are your fair weather friends that only seem to come around when they get hungry or horny or need a loan or they just want something from you that you normally would say no to. I've had that person in my life for about 3 years, and cutting them out and thinking that they're probably sitting at home freaking out right at this very minute, not knowing whether or not they're going to be able to come over and stick their hand out and get resources. Because when I met this person, I was making a decent amount of money. And the longer I knew this person, the less and less money I was making. So, if you guys haven't noticed this, inflation has been destroying our paychecks. For the last 3 years, inflation has been 11 to 15%. No raises, no other way of gaining financial support other than starting some sort of online racket or doing whatever it takes to survive. And these people, the takers, well, they know uh, that they have a limited amount of time in order to take you for. So it was every month, every so often, and then when they don't get their way, they behave like children, right? They throw a tantrum, they roll around on the ground, they call you names, they threaten to cut you off emotionally. And the whole time you're thinking to yourself, is this really happening? And the fact is, it is. So when you think about those people sitting in the dark waiting for the next person to come along so that they can take their resources, and then you ask yourself this question. This person's been unemployed for 6 months. They don't have a job. They don't have anything to do all day, but they still look like they're doing better than you are while they're sticking their hand out at you. So, with that said, I got a comment from someone today, and it generated a pretty decent script. And so, I am going to read this out loud to you guys because normally I have gone back to doing talking points, but I really like this one. So, here we go. You ever feel like you're just a vending machine for people around you? Like they only come to you when you need something, a favor, your time, your energy, but when you're the one who needs help, crickets. It's like everyone's playing this game and the goal is to take as much as they can while giving as little as possible. And the worst part, most of us don't even realize we're playing. So I'm going to break this up into two different approaches. Number one, it's the relationship you have with your job. As I mentioned, there's been no raises for 3 years, while at the same time demanding more every month and criticizing everything you do. My last review wasn't so much a review as it was a put down for all the things that they thought that I should be doing extra. And then you look at them as like, does that come with a raise, a title change? Does that come with anything for me? No. It comes with added responsibility and more time in a place that you absolutely don't want to be. The return to work mandates have been devastating to millions of people, but a lot of us just don't like being there. And it's not just me. Every remote person that I talk to, when you talk to them, they are extremely defensive about their positions. I've had people attack me with, I'm remote, I'm remote, I'm remote. And you're like, you need to come into the office to get a new upgrade on your machine. And they're like, oh, I can't do that. This is how far it has gone. So the person that runs the mental wellness program at the corporation lives, I could probably throw a rock from the front door of the office and hit their house. That's how close they live. Would this person get off their lazy rear end to come get a cable? No. They had me Amazon them a cable across the street. That's the epitome of what America's become. Because we have become so jaded that our relationships with work are absolutely toxic. And think about this, the last person that you saw in person is probably the same way. They're waiting to see what you're going to do for them. But when it comes to anything having to do with you, there's nowhere to be found. They don't answer their phone, you don't answer their emails, they're never home. They're gone until they need something. Oh, and can you help me move this furniture? Oh, can I have this? Oh, can I get that? Oh, can we go do this? Oh, can we go have dinner over at this restaurant? But whenever the bill rolls around, suddenly they stick their hands in their pockets and they pull out their pockets and they're like, oh, I don't have it. Sure, you can forgive that once or twice, but when this becomes a serial pattern with these people, and I've known them my entire life because they have a tendency to be predatory, just like the bank system is predatory towards poor people when it comes to student loans. They don't care what it's going to do to your financial future. Same thing can be said about credit cards. They would give me every credit card under the under the sky, and then suddenly you don't have any money, and you're no longer a welcome person. The second you show that you're not going to do that anymore, suddenly they give you that look. Some There's that attitude towards you, like, oh, you're so ungrateful to have this job. A steady paycheck is a privilege. Any job is a good job, but suddenly you're the biggest a-hole in the world because you point out the simple fact that this job doesn't pay anything. The the work itself sucks. The people there are disgruntled. And that's a pattern that I've seen for the last, I don't know, few years. Is that everyone is waiting to get fired. Every single person around you. And I've seen thousands of people leave the corporation just like that. One day you're passing them in the hallway, and the next day it's like, hey, what happened to Susie Rottencrotch over there? And someone will be like, oh yeah, they fired her. And then when you ask why, everybody's like, oh, we're not allowed to talk about it. We're never allowed to talk about it because the corporation wants everyone to disappear. Remember, they don't want long term investments, they don't want to pay you any sort of extra money. And when it comes to even offering unemployment benefits, they go out of their way in order to make certain that there's no way that you can qualify for unemployment benefits. When I worked at Walmart, they were notorious for making certain that they would go to court against you to make certain that they blocked any unemployment benefits. This person who's been unemployed for 6 months now since they lost their sales position, they used progressive discipline to show that this is the reason why they got fired and it wasn't their fault. They try to make it seem like you fired yourself is the most common scenario that they want. And when it comes to these people who are looking to get something from you, it's the same behavior. The same, it's your fault why I'm taking from you. It's your fault that you're needy. It's your fault that you found me. That's the pattern that I've seen over the years. It's like every time you criticize them for what they're doing, they pretend that they don't understand. Like it's not their fault. Like you're the one that has a problem. And that's exactly how I've felt with the Evil Corp since I started working, since I was a teenager. Suddenly it's your fault that you're the worst employee that they've ever hired, and they don't understand why you're like that. This happened to me while I was working at Kroger's as well. Is that the hiring manager would come up afterwards and it's like, oh man, I just gave you this great opportunity. This is an amazing job. It comes with all of these perks, but I don't understand why people don't work hard anymore. After you hire them, suddenly they don't feel like they need to really tune in at work. In fact, being tuned out at work is the most common way that we function. And I think that we've tuned out in every aspect beyond our relationships with other people, which we don't have, our relationships with our job, or relationships with money. We've all tuned out. For most of us, the desperation and despair on our faces is almost like, I don't know. I see it. Like I was just at the gym and I was walking through and I looked at the girl that's the new operations manager, And I walk in and I say to her, it's like, what are you doing here? It's too early for you to be here. And she's like, oh my gosh, she just went off on the how horrible that place was to work in. And I was just like, oh my God. And you're a single mom with kids. Yeah. So, and this is a story she gave me. She has to come in earlier on Fridays for no apparent reason because there's no consistency. And rather than coming into the gym early, she would rather sit in the car after dropping off her bunch of kids and just wait for work to start because she can't go home after she's dropped off the kids because it wouldn't be worth it. So she just sits in the car for 45 minutes every day. I don't know, people. This world is more effed up than I could have ever imagined. And let's move on to our second talking point because I've already wasted 10 minutes on one paragraph. Let me tell you a secret. Almost every interaction you have is a transaction. Friends, family, coworkers, they all want something. And guess what? You're giving it away for free. Your time, your energy, your attention. It's all a currency in this game. I used to think it was just me, that maybe I was imagining things, but then I started noticing patterns. People only call when they need a ride, when their boyfriend broke up with them, and they want someone to dump their emotional baggage on. Family, don't even get me started. Half the time, they're just asking for money I don't even have. But here's the plot twist. It's not just the people you know, it's society set up to drain you, to drain you too. Look at jobs that pay pennies but demand your soul. Look at social media stealing your attention just to sell you ads. And don't even get me started on you should be grateful crowd. Grateful for what? Being exploited? Oh my gosh, that sentiment. Every time I have to meet with management, it's that line. Be grateful that we exploit you because if we weren't exploiting you, you might be getting exploited by the company down the street or by your next door neighbor or that stranger that's holding a sign on the corner or the grocery store that's exploiting you with ridiculous prices. Yesterday I went to Food City and I bought chicken and I got sick from the chicken and I really shouldn't throw out the chicken, but guess what? When you think about going back to the grocery store the very next day, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But being exploited is what we do. To be human is to be exploited. Because when you're born and you know that every day comes with a living tax, right? Every day that you're alive and you don't have anyone to pay your way, there's a tax on life. And I call it food, shelter, and transportation. But all of those things come with a heavy, heavy serving of exploitation and be grateful for it. When I write these scripts from the perspective of a rich guy, he goes is just a guy making fun of poor people for a solid 20 minutes. It's like, well, if you were smarter, you wouldn't be getting exploited, you'd be exploiting. So it's either you're smart and you exploit other people, or you're dumb and you get exploited by other people because you don't know any better. I mean, I would consider myself to be a pretty dumb person. If I've been letting myself be exploited like this for years at a time now, knowing full well because the pattern never changes. The second they need something, suddenly you look at your phone and you're like, oh, there's that person again. Because I don't message a lot of people. In fact, I don't keep any contacts in my phone. In fact, it's something someone said to me the other day. It's like, you don't keep anyone in your phone at all? It's like, no, I don't. What's the point? Everyone's going to disappoint you at some, uh, at some, I don't want to call it at some point. I want to call it at some phase in your life. Someone that you didn't think about was going to disappoint you, and it's really, really going to bother you to the point where you're just going to look at your phone and be like, you know what? I think that's the last time. And then you block their number and you move on. All right. You see, the system's rigged. It's designed to keep you running in circles, always giving, never getting. That's why so many of us are opting out. staying home, keeping our circle small, because we're tired of being used. But here's the question: do you stop playing a game you didn't sign up for? How do you protect your energy in a world that constantly is trying to drain you dry? The fact is, if you're going to participate in the world, you're going to have to do this. Remember, like I've said on so many videos, ass, gas, or cash. Every transaction with another person or another business involves those things. And when a person doesn't want to play and you keep putting forth your resources, you sort of start looking down and think, what am I doing here? Why am I wasting my time? I could be sitting at home in the dark and doing nothing rather than wasting my time with a person that sees me as nothing more than a resource, a thing to be drained. And when you don't have resources, suddenly you don't exist to them. It's funny how everything in the world involves having money. When the government notices that you don't have any money, you suddenly become invisible. You're not even counted. Look at homeless people in our society. There are hundreds of thousands of them. They don't have any money, therefore they don't have any influence. You look one tier higher, the people that are one paycheck away from becoming homeless, which I would include myself in. You're just one paycheck away from complete and total financial disaster. And you kind of think to yourself, well, obviously no one represents me in the government because I'm invisible. And if I had money, I wouldn't care. That's the thing, is that once you elevate yourself to being a person who has money, then suddenly you don't really care about the day-to-day fake relationships you have because you have money to buy all that you want. Love has a price. A nice house has a price. A nice car has a price. And when you're poor like me, you can't afford the basics. It's not just survival mode anymore. It's more like The Walking Dead. We're all shut in our homes waiting to see what's going to happen in the next year. Are we going to lose our jobs? How many more businesses are going to go under? When I was going to the gym about an hour ago, I was driving out of the apartment complex and I looked over at the 7 closed businesses in a row next to this apartment complex. Nothing is open all the way up until the gas station. That's it. All of those businesses couldn't sustain themselves in this neighborhood. What does that tell you about the people that live in this neighborhood? This is a down and out apartment complex with everyone living in complete and total misery while you're here. Would anyone else tolerate sitting here while you have to flick cockroaches off your arm because this place is such a cesspool? No. And that's what society's become. It's become a cesspool for the poor. Of course, rich people don't live in this area. They don't get to feel the problems of people who have to wonder if they're going to eat a roach in their sleep or have to wake up in the middle of the night to flick something off the side of their head. No, they don't even know what that's like. They would never allow themselves to live like this. I think most people would rather take the rope than live like a poor person for even a single hour. Understanding what poor people food is, the dog food can that has a human face on it, and your pet's looking at you like, why so greedy, man? You know? Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I don't know why I wanted to make another video. I guess I'm waiting for my dog food to cook up and I had nothing else to do, so I needed to pass the time. I will, let's see, eat something and then I'll go run some errands and then I'll come back and do a live stream.